If you're an NFT developer, you really have to listen up. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can deploy metadata, including image and any other NFT metadata, to IPFS, the decentralized file system, and how to do that in bulk so that you can upload an entire folder full of NFT metadata all at once, get it with the same hash into one folder on IPFS, and it's only using one single API call. That's what I'm going to show you today, and what we'll end up with is something like this, where you get back, you call the API, and you get back your entire array full of files on IPFS, and you can see that every single one of them have the same hash. And if we open up one of these, because they have different token IDs, you can see that we have our JSON file here with the image, which is also hosted on IPFS, right? And the name of the NFT and the description. And you can add whatever you want here. But this is done with just one single API call. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. The reason I want to do this is when you're working with ERC1155 token standard, then all of your tokens, they need to have the same URL structure, and they need to have a specific token ID that then gets replaced and inserted when someone wants to read your metadata. And therefore, you need to be able to deploy things to a folder where you can have multiple JSON files within the same hash on IPFS. And this will allow you to do that. So I hope you're excited for this. What you'll need before we get started here is you'll need some images to deploy. So I have a folder here full of a bunch of images. Look like, let's see. Look like this. So you need, I have 100 images. I'm going to do 100 at once, and you're going to need some images as well in order to actually deploy them. Well, you could deploy the JSON files without the image attribute, of course. Now I deployed it using, I had an image included, but you don't have to have an image included. But it's a bit more realistic if you're talking about NFTs, have images included as well. But I hope you're excited to get started. If you're interested in building dapps and building NFTs, you need to check out Moralis first of all. And we're going to use Moralis in this tutorial because it's really the only solution I've seen that enables you to do this in one single function call, API call. And with Moralis, you can build dapps, NFTs, games, whatever you want. And you can do it in a much faster pace than anything else on the market. You can build your dapp, scale your dapp, host your dapp, everything within Moralis. So make sure to check that out. And also subscribe to this channel if you're interested in more Web3 content. But with that said, we're ready to get started. We're going to begin here in Visual Studio Code. And as you can see, all that I have here to start with is a folder with images. So these are the images that I'm going to use for my NFT. And I've generated these images like random avatars like this. And if you're wondering how I did this, that's actually a future upcoming video with all of this, how to generate NFT images programmatically like this. So I have 100 of them, and they're named, very specifically, they're named with 64-bit padded numbers, or rather padded to 64 hex characters. And that's the standard for the metadata file for 1155 tokens. It's not standard for the images, so you don't have to have all of these images named like this, but I'm going to show you how I did it, like the naming, because we're going to do it for the JSON files. But so you need a directory with images basically, and they need to be named in some way where you can loop through them, either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on, or like this in hexadecimal, but they don't have to be 64 characters hexadecimal. And what we're going to start with is to make sure that these images get uploaded to IPFS. And after that, we're going to do the metadata JSON file, which will contain a link to the image, which is also on IPFS. So both the JSON file and the image is going to be on IPFS. So we're going to create a new file, and we'll call this images.js because we're going to upload the images. We're also going to open up the terminal, and we're going to do npm init and init that, and then we're going to npm install fs so we can read and write files, and we're also going to npm install Axios to make some HTTP requests. And then at the top, we can close the terminal now. We're going to require, or let fs be equal to require IPFS. And same thing for Axios. We're going to import those two packages. And what we need to do now is to loop through all of our images. And more than hundreds, or 100 images. We're going to loop through all of the images, read the images from file into our script, and then upload them all into IPFS. And in order to upload them easily to IPFS, we're going to use a Moralis endpoint that's called upload folder, which will upload an entire folder with the folder name to IPFS so that they're all in the same directory. And to do that, we need to put all of the images into an array. So we're going to have an IPFS array up here. And here we're going to input all of the images that we read from file. So what we're going to do in here is to do fs dot read file, and then we're going to specify the directory to read here. And I'm going to have, first of all, __ dir name for directory name slash export, because that's what they are, slash, here I need the padded hex number, or if you have just named them 1, 2, 3, 4, you can just use I, which will go from 0 to 100 or to 0 to 99. But I'm going to have a variable here that's called padded hex that I'm going to create, and then .png. And then this will give, the second argument here is a callback function with error and data. And then we're going to do more stuff in here, but I need to create this padded hex. And I've done this, or no, I haven't done this yet. So this is common for ERC1155. And I'm going to create this padded hex string. And I need to start by having just 64 zeros. So that is the base. So here I have 8 zeros, and then I need to paste these 8 times to get 64. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And you need to double check that these are actually 64. So you should do that like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Space 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. And then do that 8 times. Make sure you have 8 groups of 8. And once you have that, then we're going to add the I number. So we're going to take the I and we're going to convert it to hex, and we're going to append it at the end of this string. And we convert it to hex with I.toString 16. And then finally, all of this we'll call the substring method in order to cut this string to 64 characters. And we're going to say minus 64 because that will give us the rightmost 64 characters. So that means that we'll chop off some of these zeros at the end here so that we get a correct 64 padded hex number. And if you want to see this, let me see, all in one line. There you go, a bit smaller. Now you can see it all in one line. But that's how I get the padded hex to loop through all of my images inside here. And then I'm going to read these files. And let me minimize this. And then we're going to push these images into my IPFS array. And the endpoint that we're going to use later on for Moralis, I can show you. So this is in the Moralis Web3 API. Go to admin.moralis.io. If you don't have an account, it's completely free. You can use it. I'm going to go down to storage. And there is a post endpoint here, /IPFS/upload folder. And here you can see the body that it takes. It takes a path, which is the folder name I want, followed by the file name, and then the content. And the content can be whatever you want. We're going to pass in image data, and we're going to do that in base64 format. And you can pass in JSON. You can pass in a string, like here. And then what you'll get back is the path where it has been saved like this, where you have the hash, which will remain the same for all of the files, which is important for ERC1155. And then the folder name followed by the name of the actual individual file. And here we're going to have the 000064-bit padded hex as the file name, and then .png.json, which is going to be exactly what we need. But you see the structure that we're going to pass in. So we're going to pass in an array of these objects with path and content. So path, and we can put, let's say, images flash. And here we also need to provide the file name, which is going to be, let me change these quotes, padded hex dot png. All right, and then content is to be base 64 encoding of the image, which we'll do with data, which will be a buffer. I'm going to read the file dot to string, and then base 64. All right, and that is basically just a very long string with all of the image data. And then we're going to do this 100 times, and after we've done it 100 times, we can go ahead and take this entire IPFS array and post it to Moralis. The problem here is that this will be asynchronous because it has a callback function right here. And if I directly after here call Axios post to the Moralis URL, we won't have filled up this entire IPFS array yet. I think we can check maybe. Let's check here. Console.log IPFS array.length. Let's see if it's all filled up, because it should be 100 items long. Let's try to run this. Let's see, unexpected token, no semicolon there. 0, right? So it doesn't, since this is asynchronous, it hasn't loaded any image once we get to this point. So we need to wrap this asynchronous part inside the promise and have an array of promises here, and only continue when all of the promises are done. So we're gonna do from this.push new promise is resolve reject. So here is our promise statement. In here we can put the actual function, and then once we have added it, we're gonna call resolve, and also we can call, if we get any error, we can call reject. All right. And then, since we've pushed them onto this promise array, we're gonna have an array full of promises down here, and that's gonna be 100 items long, because this is not asynchronous. It will add the promise directly, but they will call resolve on it when the actual file has been loaded. So we can call promise.all for our promises array, and then .then, so this will only fire when all of the promises has successfully resolved, or yeah, it's only when all of us resolved. So if some reject, this will also reject. And now if we call IPFS array.length in here, we will actually see that it is 100 long, 100 items long. There you go. But you know, to the human eye, it all was instant, but not for the computer. And we can also console log this IPFS array so you can see what it looks like. It's a bunch of data. So here's what an image looks like in base 64 encoding, and then you can see the path here, images /000063.png, and that's what it looks like. All right, now when we have the IPFS array, we can call Axios.post to the Moralis endpoint, and to get the Moralis endpoint, you go into Moralis here, and this is the endpoint, but we need to get the base URL as well, and you can find that in our documentation, but I happen to know what the base URL is. It's https://deep-index.moralis.io/API/v2/IPFS/upload folder. But if you watch this, you know, 1 year down the line, the API version might have changed, so make sure to check out the documentation, docs.moralis.io. An upload folder, and then second argument is the IPFS array. And then finally, we have, let me make this on new lines. Third argument are headers. And here you need to specify x-API key, all in caps. And here you need to paste in your API key. And I'm going to show you how to get it. Content type is application/JSON, and accept going to be also application/JSON. All right. Oh no, let's see. This is actually an object with options that the headers object should be inside of, like that. It was clearer like this. Okay, so we've done access post, and then we call .then whenever we get a response. And here we have result, and then .catch. If you have any error, console log error. But if we get a result, we'll console log the result, and then we'll get all of our paths from IPFS back. All right. So let's try this out. Promise all, we call that. I need to enter the API key as well for sure. So you get the API key by going to the Web3 API, and you copy the API key here. You click here, you copy default, and then it says copy to clipboard at the top right. And by the way, if you're looking for an awesome API for your dapp, then don't look further than the Moralis API, because what you see here is an incredible amount of useful functions, like getting all NFT transfers in a block, or getting all events for a specific address. And you can get historical, you can specify to block where you want the balances. So here you can get, for example, the balances of an address. You can specify at which block you want it. You can get all ERC20 tokens, all NFTs, all NFT transfers. You can get so much. You can get all different tokens information about transfers, allowance. You can search for NFTs. You can get NFT transfers, NFT owners, NFT metadata. None of this is available just querying the smart contract. So it's very, very useful. So make sure to check that out if you're building a dapp. But now we're going to focus on IPFS. So we got our API key. Now we're just going to paste it in here. And now I've pasted in my API key down there, and now I'm going to run this in the terminal. All right. Node images.js. And this will take a few seconds because we are uploading 100 images. So the API is kind of overloaded with this. It takes some time to get a response. Well, it's not overloaded, but it takes time to get a response. Oh man, now we get some big output here. I don't know. Maybe we should have console log. Yeah, maybe we shouldn't have console log the response. Or is this the error? No, I think it actually is the response. We should have console logged response.data instead. Now we get like the full request in here probably as well. Let's see if we can get something useful back here. Or if we should this. So you can see that we actually got the response here. We got a bunch of paths that we can copy. But it would have helped. I'm gonna remove my API key and then I can show you. Well, what we should have done is we should have done console log res.data. Then you would only have gotten this last part. Now it wrote so much that the console almost exploded. But if you wrote res.data, you would have gotten only this. And now we can view this. So this will be our images. I can open this in our browser. And here is our image. And it's also an IPFS, so you can use the Moralis IPFS, not the browser, but you can also enter, just like if you have Brave, you can enter IPFS / followed by this hash, followed by the folder name and the file name, and open it purely in IPFS. But this is going to take some time because it needs to fetch it from the nodes and stuff. But any other, like if you're using Pinata IPFS gateway or whatever, you can fetch it from any IPFS gateway. So it's not reliable on Moralis, but Moralis, of course, is the fastest and the best IPFS node out there. But with that hosted, and that's going to take some time to load, especially when it's loaded the first time through some other gateway. And now that we do have the images loaded, we can copy this path so we remember it and just put it inside a comment here. We can get started with our next file, which is actually uploading the metadata. So new file, metadata.js. And we're going to copy the same thing we did here, because we are still going to use an IPFS array. We are still going to use the padded hex. Now you have to use the padded hex because this is the ERC1155 metadata standard. But now we're not going to push an image, so we're not going to need any of this read file and any of the promises. Now we're just gonna push, let's see, there we go. Now we're just gonna push some metadata into this IPFS array. And path content, this is for, this is where we want to put the content. So this is where we put our metadata. And the standards for the ERC1155 metadata can be found online. But for example, we can put image, sorry, not an object. Here, where we're going to put the IPFS URL, we're going to put the name, the description, and that's what I'm going to put. But you can put a ton of different things. I can show you here the metadata standards, what we can put. You can put attributes. Here are the different ones. Image, image data, external URL, description, name, attributes, background color, animation URL, YouTube URL. But I'm going to put image, name, and description. And the image, I know, is IPFS:// the hash that we got, / images, and then / the added hex .png. Right, all of them have that structure, and whatever structure you put here in regards to your enumeration of the images, you should put here. But you know the folder name, you know the hash from when we uploaded the images just now. The name, you can either do unique names, so you have an array with names where you select from I0 to 100, but I'm going to put the same name, my YouTube test NFT, and then the description, and I can put here number, then I can put the number, or yeah, I'm going to do that, number, and then put I. So that the title will actually be different. Awesome NFT for my YouTube video. Okay? Because we're going to see this on OpenSea when we look at it. So we're going to deploy, send that to the API, and we don't need this promise all thing because now we have no asynchronous callbacks. So we just have this for loop. We add everything into the IPFS array. A path, it's not going to be images anymore. We'll put it as metadata. Maybe makes more sense. And then this is going to be .json. And here it's important that you use the padded hex. It needs to have that format where it is a 64 padded hexadecimal character string where your token ID is in hexadecimal as well. And you can do that with this padded hex thing I showed before. So path content, we got all of that. Now we can upload it. There we go. IPFS array, same thing. I'm going to put in the API key and then we're going to run this thing. Open up the terminal. And now I'm going to put rest.data so we want to get the data back. Node metadata.js. There we go. Now we have our JSON files deployed. So we can have a look at this as well in the browser. And here we have our image. We have our name, description. And now all that's left is to deploy our smart contract, because now we know where our metadata is hosted. It's hosted on IPFS, and we know the structure of it, meaning that we can always reach it with this IPFS hash followed by metadata / our token ID .json. And that's exactly what we need for ERC1155. So now I'm going to go to Remix. I'm going to show you my code here. So I have a standard ERC1155 contract here that is made with OpenZeppelin, ERC1155.sol contract. And we have other videos for this if you want to learn how to build the actual smart contract. I'm going to remove a few things here. These IDs I'm not going to use because now we have like collectibles and stuff instead. The input argument to the ERC1155 constructor is the URL to the metadata, where token ID has been replaced by this bracket ID close bracket. So we're going to copy our IPFS URL, or rather what you need is the IPFS hash, so this part, and well also this part metadata. And you're going to put that in here where you see the hash and then the directory. Previously I had token here, but I'm going to have hash / metadata / ID.json all inside this string. And then I'm minting one token of ID 0 because I'm minting one of them of ID 0. I can also mint one token of ID 1, and I'll also mint one token of ID 2. All right. Now I'm going to deploy this, and then I'm going to view it on OpenSea. I'm going to deploy it on the Rinkeby test network. You can also use the Polygon testnet Mumbai, but I'm not going to do it on mainnet, so I'm doing it on testnet. But it should be on the live network in order for it to be available on OpenSea. There we go. Now it's deployed. Now all we need to do is copy the token address. We need to go to, let's see, OpenSea, get listed. It's OpenSea.io/get listed. We're going to click that we're live on a testnet. And then select chain as Rinkeby. Enter your ERC1155 contract address. Now, we just deployed this, so it might be the case that it hasn't recognized it yet. We'll see. Exactly. We couldn't find this contract. We need to wait like 30 seconds. And we can try again. Turns out it actually takes a bit longer than 30 seconds. Man, they're really slow. Because it is deployed here. Maybe it hasn't got enough confirmations yet. You just have to be patient. It's weird because Rinkeby has it here. It even recognized it as ERC1155. But OpenSea, very slow. Honestly, I'm going to try to redeploy this again because this doesn't make any sense. They must be behind or something in their nodes. I'm going to deploy this again. There we go. Now we take that new address, whatever, which one was the new one? Let's see, not starting with 77, so the little over one here. Let's try this one here, and we're gonna wait for a few minutes. And we're gonna check it on Etherscan as well, because our previous contract was. But you can see, it is deployed, but now it's 26 seconds ago. Finally, it works. That's insane. So I just have to wait like 10 minutes. Yeah. OpenSea, you should switch to Moralis API and Moralis nodes because this is just too slow. I mean, Etherscan had it in like 1 second and you guys took 10 minutes. Not good. All right. Now, sometimes OpenSea will do this. It will say unidentified contract. But what you can do is you can go to what I said before, testnet.opensea.io/assets/ contract URL/0. That would be token ID 0. And here is our contract, and hopefully it can fetch our actual NFT metadata as well. OpenSea definitely seems to be experiencing some issues at the moment, because everything we've done is correct. I mean, here I've opened up the IPFS link with our JSON file, and we can see that the image is IPFS://this.png. Okay, so finally, our contract that we deployed first actually started working. So it did take some time, but now it is here. And here you can see the test NFT number 0. You can see the full collection down here. We only have 3 NFTs, of course, even though we uploaded metadata for 100 because we only minted 3. Could have minted way more here, but we minted 3, and you can, depending on your contract, mint more later on. But here it has everything, the title, the image, the description, everything is hosted on IPFS, completely decentralized, the title, image, description. And you can view this now on any NFT exchange, including OpenSea, Rarible, and all that. That's all I had to share for this little tutorial. Make sure, before you do anything else, to check out Moralis.io. If you're interested in building dapps, Moralis is the best way to do it. It's everything you need in order to build, host, scale your dapps. And you'll be surprised on how much faster it is to build with Moralis compared to anything else out there. I also want to thank you for watching. If you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you have any questions, comments, or just want to chat, leave your comments down below. Also join our community Discord, where you can chat with other developers, get help, get support, get ideas. It's an amazing community, so I'll see you around there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.